Hi guys, we are Caitlin and Julie, the editors on the SAM team to help you guys improve your reports. And we're creating this little video on capitalization so you guys can tell the difference between proper and improper nouns a little more easily and how and when to capitalize words in a sentence. So first we want to run over what we're going to cover in this presentation really quickly. We're going to go over identifying proper and improper nouns as well as the differences therein. And we're also going to run over what to capitalize and what not to capitalize. And there are going to be a bunch of examples of each throughout the presentation.
So just as a quick refresher, we wanted to go over the difference between proper and improper nouns. And nouns are people, places, and things. And to describe the difference between improper and proper nouns is a little challenging because they're pretty abstract concepts. So stick with me here. Later in the presentation, we'll give some concrete examples that will hopefully be easy to follow. But I will go ahead and give it my best shot. So improper nouns are things that describe something generally rather than something that's very specific or unique. So an example is university is a general word used to describe a type of school. It's an improper noun because it's not describing something specifically. So the word university is not capitalized when you say, I go to university. If it's included in a university's name, for example, I go to Kenya University, it would be capitalized because it's part of the name and therefore is a proper noun. So again, this is a hard concept to really describe, but hopefully our examples moving forward will help concretize these concepts a little more clearly.
All right. So let's just go over some of the basic rules of what to capitalize in a sentence. On the left, you can see we have the different types of words, and on the right, we have examples of each. So the first rule we want to go over is that the first words in sentences are always capitalized. On the right, you can see our first example is the sentence, today is a good day. Today is capitalized because it's the first word in the sentence. Pretty simple. Next, we're going to get into proper nouns, which is a little more abstract and can be a little more strange and random feeling, but it's pretty straightforward once you get the hang of it. So proper nouns, as Julie just said, include names, locations, the titles of books, movies, TV shows, various types of media, months, and days of the week. We have 3 examples for these, so you can kind of see a bunch of different ways that proper nouns can work in a sentence. Our first example is the sentence, Sam read The Hunger Games in Paris. Sam is a name and the first word in the sentence, so that is capitalized. The Hunger Games is the name of a book series, so it will be capitalized. And Paris is the name of a city in France, so it is capitalized. In our second example, we have the sentence, my birthday is Monday, January 10th. My is the first word in the sentence, so it will be capitalized. Monday is the day of the week, so it will be capitalized. And January is a month, so it will be capitalized. The last example we have for this is the sentence, the Sam and Limu Foundation is awesome. The is capitalized because it's the first word of the sentence. Sam and Limu Foundation is capitalized for 2 reasons. SAM is an acronym, which we will get into a little bit later, and Limu Foundation is the rest of the title of the organization. So Sam Limu Foundation is the title of the organization and therefore is capitalized. Next, we're going to look at acronyms. The rule of acronyms is that they are always capitalized. Also, acronyms are often titles of organizations or places or whatever. So that's another reason they're always capitalized, but acronyms are always capitalized regardless of what they stand for. So in this example, we have SAM stands for Save a Mine. This is what the Sam and Sammy Limu Foundation stands for, and it is the title of the organization. So it is capitalized both because it is the title of the organization as well as the acronym. And last, another really simple, straightforward one, the pronoun I. The pronoun I is always capitalized. So in our example here, we have the sentence, she said, I am smart. She is capitalized, again, because it's the first word in the sentence. And I is capitalized because the pronoun I is always capitalized. So I wanted to cover how to capitalize titles because that can be a little bit more tricky and feel a little bit more arbitrary because there are several rules that go into the system of capitalizing titles, even though they are proper nouns and they are just capitalized. So it's important to remember that not all words in a title will be capitalized. This is really arbitrary and it doesn't feel like it makes much sense. And I would just like to say that it is not important that you or anyone really understands the nitty-gritty, the details of the rules. It's just important that you're able to identify that some rules should not be capitalized and what those words are. So for this, we're going to be using the example of Peter Linneman's book, The Great Age Reboot, Cracking the Longevity Code for a Younger Tomorrow, because it's really long and it kind of exemplifies a lot of these different examples, that a lot of these different rules that we want to show you for capitalizing titles. So here are kind of the two big rules. Firstly, first and last words are always capitalized, as well as the first word after a colon, because it's like the start of another phrase. So we have in our book title here, the is capitalized in The Great Age Reboot because it's the first word of the title. Cracking in Cracking the Longevity Code is capitalized because it's the first word after the colon. And tomorrow in A Younger Tomorrow is capitalized because it's the last word in the title. That's pretty simple. It's pretty easy to follow. Next, we're going to go over what shouldn't be capitalized in a title, which can feel a little more random. As a rule, all words in a title should be capitalized except for articles, coordinating conjunctions, and prepositions. Articles include a, an, and the. Coordinating conjunctions are and, but, or, for, yet, nor, and so. And there are tons of prepositions in the English language, but we've created a list of some of the most common words used, so you can refer to that if ever you need to. But these words in a title will always be lowercase unless they are the first or last word of the title. So let's kind of run through this book title and see where these lie. Perhaps the most confusing one is that there are two thes in this title, in The Great Age Reboot and Cracking the Longevity Code, and they're not both capitalized or lowercase. The first the in The Great Age Reboot is capitalized because it's the first in the title, and Cracking the Longevity Code is not capitalized because it's an article. Then we have for and a, which are lowercase, and those are both lowercase because they're an article and a coordinating conjunction. It seems very tricky, and sometimes it is. These are rules that even native speakers struggle with still. And it's not important that you know what these words are or why they are what they are. It's just important that you be able to identify them in a sentence.
So we've talked about proper nouns, what to capitalize, and we've also talked about proper and improper nouns in titles. And now we're going to move on to improper nouns, or things not to capitalize in a sentence. So just to clarify, these rules are going to be separate from the ones we just talked about, because titles have unique capitalization rules because English is confusing. So I'm now going to be talking about improper nouns, what not to capitalize, and your everyday writing. When you're writing emails, you're writing your reports that don't include titles. So most of the words in your sentences will not be capitalized. This first example I learned a lot this semester is just an example of some common typos that can come up in your writing. Learned and semester are not proper nouns. Learned is a verb, and semester, again, going back to that one of the first slides, is just describing your semester. It's not something that's specific. It's not a name, so it doesn't need to be capitalized. And the correct version of the sentence is on the right. I learned a lot this semester. The next sentence is a little more tricky, where people can get confused on how to capitalize words like professor, doctor, etc. So the sentence on the left says, "My professor was very helpful." In this sentence, professor should not be capitalized because it's an improper noun. So professor is just referring to the general job that the person performs, Therefore, it is an improper noun. One way to kind of remember this, because these rules can be they can be tricky to remember. So one general rule of thumb is anytime you're saying my professor, my dog, my mom, my sibling, those words will be improper and do not need to be capitalized. You would capitalize professor if you said Professor Julie was very helpful, because professor is then part of my name. So then it becomes a proper noun. So generally speaking, these words are not going to be capitalized if they're coming after the word my. The next sentence is another example of a common typo that we see, where am is capitalized in a sentence and should not be. So just keep an eye out for these types of capitalization errors that you see in this first bullet point and in this bullet point throughout your writing, where random words are capitalized, and ask yourself if they're a proper noun, if they're the first word in a sentence, and if they don't fit these rules, they should not be capitalized. This last example highlights some of a tricky rule in English grammar, where someone capitalizes a word after a comma. If the sentence was, she likes pizza, period, and she likes tacos, and would be capitalized because it's the first word in the sentence. But because this sentence is one whole sentence, it's connected by the comma, it's not two separate sentences, and should be lowercase, which you see in the sentence to the right. So we totally recognize that a lot of this information can be very confusing. This is probably the trickiest presentation that we've done so far. So feel free to reach out to us. We have our email here listed on the slide, and we're happy to clarify anything that may have come up for you during this presentation. So thanks very much, and we are looking forward to hearing from you.
Bye, guys.